Good morning. And I am Will Berry, Vice Chairman of the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority and acting chair for today's meeting. This meeting is being conducted in compliance with the notice and public posting provisions of the Oklahoma Open Meeting Act. While this meeting is open and public, there will be no public comments, as is OTA's longstanding historical practice. This meeting is an in-person meeting open to the public for observation and is also being live streamed and recorded for remote viewing. The time is 10:01, and I am calling the September 9th, 2025 regular meeting of the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority to order. Jenny, would you please call roll?
Yes, first I'd like to welcome Senator Darcy Yak with us today. I'll call roll. Mr. Will Berry.
Here.
Mr. Todd Cohn. Here. Mr. Gene Love.
Here.
Mr. John Titsworth.
Here.
Ms. Dana Weber, excuse me.
Here.
Mr. John Jones. We have a quorum.
Not to reiterate what Jenny just said, but she kind of stole the thunder. But we do have a couple special guests here. Senator Darcy Yak is in attendance with us, and also former Secretary of Transportation Mike Patterson. So welcome to the meeting. We all got the minutes of last month's meeting in our packet. Could we get a motion for approval of those minutes?
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Voting is in, and the minutes have been approved. The first order of business is from the Finance Committee. Mr. Cohn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first item is item.
Oops.
Yeah, we have the recognitions and awards, and I think.
We did have one thing, so
Oh, I'm sorry.
that's okay. Miscommunication on our side, I apologize. If I could be recognized real quick for a bit of a recognition.
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, this is going to be one of the toughest things I've ever had to do. We're going to do a moment of silence here in just a minute for a fallen OTA worker. Unfortunately, we're starting this month's meeting on a very somber note. On the afternoon of August 18th, OTA maintenance employee Zach Reinhart and Colton Armstrong were doing debris removal on I-44 near Miami. They stopped on the shoulder, and as we understand it, Zach exited the vehicle just about the time that it was struck by a semi-truck that had driven onto the shoulder where they had parked. The impact killed Zach instantly, and the OTA truck containing Colton was demolished. Colton was taken to Mercy Hospital in Joplin in critical condition. Colton's in his 20s and has made some recovery. Just a week ago, he was able to go home from the hospital where he's continued to try to recover from his injuries, and I pray that he makes a full and complete recovery. Zach's fatal injuries mark the first time in 26 years that OTA has lost one of its workers in the line of duty. I learned a lot about Zach at his funeral. After high school, Zach joined the military where he served for 6 years. He also worked for the military department here in Oklahoma prior to joining the OTA. He was an active volunteer fireman and well known in the area and in the community of Veneta as a generous and giving person. Zach leaves behind his wife, Danny, and 3 children, one 15, one 5, and one 2. Through this tragedy, there has been so much support. From the Highway Patrol and area fire departments escorting Zach home, help assisting OTA, to our friends at the Oklahoma Department of Transportation that have taken up collections of their own and in their own offices, to us even doing some of our own fundraisers that we've been able to do to provide some additional money and support for Zach's family. We're thankful for the support from so many, and most recently from the ODOT Memorial Foundation. And I know Mike Patterson's here, so I would recognize him again for his help and his support. The ODOT Memorial Foundation was created in 2018 to raise money through annual golf tournaments and clay shoots to support fallen workers, transportation workers of ODOT and OTA. The foundation provides an initial payment to the family to assist with initial unexpected expenses, but their primary focus, and it's a huge deal, is to provide post-secondary education for all of Zach's kids. I'd like to have a moment of silence, if you would. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Please keep these families in your thoughts and prayers. Now, back to the Finance Committee, Mr. Cohn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first item is item 1305. Matt Luffelholtz. Good morning, Matt.
Good morning, members of the authority, Director E. Kelly. Submitted for consideration and approval of the authority is a request to authorize the director to negotiate and execute the 2025-2026 Appendix C with the Office of Management and Enterprise Services, OMES, for an amount not to exceed $904,276. This is the annual renewal with OMES as part of the consolidated state services the authority receives from them. These services include but are not limited to the core employee management system, data center, phone services across the organization, along with the necessary network connectivity and customer service related phone features such as IVR, live agent web chat, auto dialer and budget software, etc. The staff has reviewed the above item and recommends for approval. I would also like to add the amount last year was $822,068.76. The bulk of this increase is coming from the phone services as well as the budget software.
Any questions of Mr. Luffelholtz? If not, Mr. Chairman, I'd move for adoption of item 1305 as presented.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Weber. Please vote. All votes are in. Item 1305 has been approved.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My final item is item 1306. Ms. Patterson. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Vice Chairman Berry and members of the authority. Item number 1306 is the payment register prepared by the Comptroller Division. This payment register includes all payments made for the month of July 2025. The staff has reviewed this item and recommends this item for approval.
Any questions? If there are none, Mr. Chairman, I would move for adoption of 1306 as presented.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Weber. Please vote. Voting is in, and item 1306 has been approved. Next order of business is from the Engineering and Construction Division, and item 1307 will be presented by Mr. Garter.
Good morning, Vice Chairman Berry and members of the board. Presented for consideration of the authority is a request that the following change orders be approved. Of these change orders, 3 overrun existing items due to site requirements, 4 add new items to compensate the contractor for additional work, and 2 credits time to the contract. This item has been reviewed by staff and is recommended for approval, and as always, be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions? If not, I move that we approve this item as presented. Do we have a second?
Second motion.
Thank you, Mr. Love. Please vote. Voting is in, and item 1307 has been approved. The next item is item 1308, which will be presented by Mr. Gore.
Good morning, Vice Chair Berry and Authority. First item I bring is 1308 is declare surplus property and authorize the director to sell, lease, or otherwise dispose of the same. The following parcels consisting of the approximate acres at the locations identified below were previously acquired by the authority. As the staff reviewed these properties were conducted and it's determined that a portion of these described parcels of approximate acres identified were acquired in uneminent and are not needed for construction, maintenance, needs of the turnpike system. based on that determination, the staff recommends the authority consider and vote on declaring the attached parcels as surplus and authorize the director to obtain a survey, appraisal, sell, lease, or otherwise dispose of property, including in a land stop required as needed for the system. The first parcel is CWT 113, is 0.5 acres, is near the Chickasaw Turnpike, and is a property that was acquired during the reconnection of the State Highway 1 with ODOT and the Chickasaw Turnpike. So with collaboration between us and ODOT, both agreed that this property is not needed, and we present that for that one. The second parcel, two parcels are on the Creek Turnpike, 364 and 368. These actually are identified by our maintenance division as properties that are not needed outside the fence area, kind of hard to mow because there's not really great access to them, and asked us to look at reducing those to be surplus. So so with that, I stand for any questions regarding those three parcels.
Well, I appreciate you getting these back on the tax rolls and being your due diligence to get them as quickly as possible back on the tax rolls.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Gore? If not, I make a motion that we approve this item as presented. Do we have a second?
Second the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Love. Please vote. Voting is in, and item 1308 has been approved. The last item in the engineering and construction is item 1309. Will be presented by Mr. Gore.
Thank you again. This 1309 is a contract modification for right-of-way management contract for the Access Bond Program and Capital Program. Submitted for the consideration of authority is a request for the following items to be approved or disapproved, and summary items as follows. For SP 66 modification number 2 with Poe and Associates for a not to exceed amount of $3 million. This contract is to serve as an extension of the OTA staff in providing right-of-way management services for the Access Bond Program and Capital Program. The right-of-way management services include, but not limited to, right-of-way oversight, management, coordination, condemnation activities, and other services directed by the OTA. This contract modification is anticipated to be renewed annually over the life of the Access Bond Program. The contract is an hourly, not to exceed contract. The total revised contract amount not to exceed is $6,700,000. This contract is different, as LaDan brought last board meeting, the contract with Poe relating to the oversight of the bond program. This one is particularly solely for the right-of-way management during the acquisition process. As you mentioned, we're heavily getting into that process, and so we're kind of at that point that now, as we've been using Poe, as we do diligently to acquire properties, that is going to slowly ramp up, and we need those additional funds to keep them on service to help assist OTA and that staff.
Great. Are there any questions? If not, I make a motion that we approve this item as presented. Do we have a second?
Second the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Love. Please vote. Voting has ended, and item 1309 has been approved. That concludes our items of business, and so now we'll jump to the next item will be the reports. The Highway Patrol report will be presented by Trooper Brian Connigan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the authority, for the month of July, Turnpike troopers made 5,722 violator contacts. We assisted in 1,218 motorist assist and investigated 177 motor vehicle collisions. Troopers worked 1,040 shifts, averaged 213 miles driven per shift, with the total being just over 221,000 miles driven for the month of July. The Turnpike system reported 1 fatality during the month of July, had 4 criminal interdictions, drug-related arrests, and it's my understanding you guys have a report with more statistics. If you guys have any questions on that, I'd be happy to answer those as well.
Anybody have any questions? Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Next item is the engineer's report. Mr. Jimmy Sparks.
Good
Good morning, Vice Chairman Barry, members of the authority, Director E. Kelly. Concerning the trust requirements, we will be submitting our 2025 annual report with the new inspection data to staff by October 1st. Within that will be our recommendations for any updates to the 5-year capital projects. I state that a lot, but reinvestment is a huge part of what we do. So I wanted to go into, I think it's been a while since I've talked about the establishment of the reserve maintenance requirements, which is in the trust agreement as the minimum reinvestment into the system. So every year, project engineer Christie and myself, we kind of look at our bridge and pavements and come up with a longer range plan, and then we drill down to the recommendations for the capital improvement program. So looking at bridges, we kind of look at some historical data and how quickly things drop, and when something hits the fair category before it gets to the structurally deficient category, we try to make sure it's done. So we identified 52 bridges that need to be rehabilitated over the next 15 years. 17 of those are already programmed or in the design process. So, but there still leaves 35 to address over the next few years. And roughly in today's dollars, we're looking at about a $250 million reinvestment. For the pavements, there's about 200 miles that will need to be rehabilitated or reconstructed over the same period of time at, approaching probably $350 million. And then, we talk a lot about our asset preservation methods, the Dow bar retrofit diamond grinding. Those extend the life, but if we're beyond the point of being able to rehabilitate a concrete pavement, then those costs could go up even more. So that's all to say, always appreciate as we get into the budget process, the capital planning process, appreciate the support of the reinvestment, and that keeps the turnpike assets operating at high service levels. So we'll be reestablishing the reserve maintenance requirements, usually 5 years at a time. So we'll report on what those numbers come out in the next few months. In August, our engineers checked 101 special overloads. So as part of the vitality of the turnpike network to the transportation system, we're still seeing large amounts of heavy special loads moving on the turnpike system. No special inspections in our current monthly report, and I'm always happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
I would just, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to comment that I drive the turnpikes a lot, and I have friends from out of state that drive it, and I always get a lot of compliments on the quality of our turnpike roads, and I just want to thank you for what you do to help us make sure it stays that way.
Jimmy, you talked about bridges. I don't think we technically have any on the system right now that are considered functionally obsolete or structurally deficient. Is that correct?
No, on the structurally deficient. We
Yeah.
do not have any.
And by
If
functionally,
we do, they're in construction.
Yeah.
The new data. Functionally obsolete is a function of current design standards. When these were
Right.
built, standards have changed, so they may be a little bit narrow. So we do have a list of those
Yeah.
that do fall in the functionally obsolete category, but no on the structurally deficient for sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jimmy. The next report is Mrs. Singleton with the trustee report.
Good morning, Vice Chairman, members of the authority, Director Kelly. As bond trustee to the authority, all monthly debt service transfers were made for the semi-annual payments due to the bondholders as required by the trust agreement. To our knowledge, all other requirements set forth in the trust agreement have been satisfied. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next report is the operating results and financial report. Mrs. Wendy Smith.
Vice Chairman Barry, members of the authority, Director E. Kelly. Net toll revenues for July on the Oklahoma Turnpike system reported at $42.5 million. Total transactions stayed fairly flat as compared to last year, but truck traffic continues to remain strong, and that's something that we always look at because it's a good economic indicator. Additionally, year-to-date toll revenues continue to outpace budgeted projections by 8.8%. Also, our funding sources remain strong. As you are aware, The Turnpike projects receive no state funding, but are fully funded by toll revenues paid only by those who choose to travel on them. And today, about 50% of OTA's toll revenue is generated from out-of-state travelers. OTA has been highly successful in carrying out its mission, as evidenced by the high credit ratings assigned to OTA bond debt by independent credit rating agencies, while also maintaining some of the lowest toll rates in the country. I also reported on the flow of funds that is established by the trust indenture a couple of years ago, basically saying that all money in the revenue fund at the end of the month in excess of allowable budgeted operating expenses are transferred. The first place that they're transferred is to pay the debt. 1/12 of the principal requirement and 1/6 of the interest requirement is handled that way. And as Rachel has reported, we always make our debt payments. So those are set up to pay January 1st and July 1st. Then we have to top off the debt reserve fund if necessary. And next, as Jimmy talked about, the reserve maintenance fund, we make a transfer, an amount set by the authority's consulting engineer for the purpose of paying maintenance expenses to keep the turnpike system in good repair. And finally, I think I reported this 2 years ago, the excess balance is deposited to the general fund, which can be used for any lawful purpose of the authority. And then I realized while I was talking about this to myself, we stopped there and we didn't really talk about what happens when it gets to the general fund. So I thought I would talk about that a little bit, in case you're curious. So the general fund is useful for a reserve for unforeseen emergencies, such as helping to make up shortages, such as what was seen during the COVID pandemic when traffic dropped as much as 42% in 1 month. Another way to be fiscally responsible and have a certain number of days of cash on hand, and this is something that the rating agencies pay careful attention to. It's also additional funding for the authority's capital plan. This additional source for funding, a comprehensive capital plan can extend the useful life of the system, and as Jimmy said, it's indeed a pay now or pay a lot more later proposition. In 1994, just after the completion of the construction program that built the Chickasaw, Cherokee, Creek, and Kilpatrick turnpikes, the authority decided to take a more deliberate approach to the capital spending and adopt their first 5-year capital plan in conjunction with the 1995 annual budget, covering the 1995 through 1999 years. The Reserve Maintenance Fund had always been used to maintain the system in compliance with the trust indenture and kept it operating at a satisfactory level. But adding to that available general fund monies, this allows the authority to get ahead on its rehabilitation of the system and extend its useful life of its roads and bridges, thereby keeping the system in good condition even longer. And that's because engineering studies have confirmed that accelerating capital costs and renovating the system sooner can significantly cut costs from the routine maintenance budget. This is particularly important for a system that carries as much commercial traffic as Oklahoma does. 3 turnpikes currently make up the I-44 corridor, and this route, along with I-35 and I-40, all make Oklahoma integral to the transporting goods across our country. It's important to note that the 5-year capital plan is just that. It's a plan. It's constantly reviewed as revenues are earned and as operating expenses are expended. The projects are bid and may come in over or under those capital budgeted amounts. If the authority has excess revenues coming to the general fund, more projects are added to the capital plan. The authority does not make a profit. Excess general fund dollars are always converted to needed projects on a system that dates back over 72 years. There's always a project that can be moved up in that plan. So should be a slide on the screen. So the slide on the screen, there it goes, shows the 2024 budgeted flow of funds as compared to what actually happened. So with a fiscally responsible plan and prudent spending, you can see that although we budgeted for $62.8 million to be transferred to the general fund by the end of year-end 2024, instead, with higher than projected revenues and prudent spending decisions by OTA management, OTA actually transferred over $150 million to the general fund. The next slide shows projects by category for our current capital plan, showing years 2025 through 2029. These excess funds help enhance these projects, allowing some to be moved to earlier years and allowing others that hadn't been in the plan to move into the plan. The authority understands that drivers have a choice on what roads to use in their daily travel. So I was excited to hear you say that your friends give you a compliment about our roads. We strive to make our roads a good value. Accelerating projects keeps those roads safer and smoother. The authority has raised tolls only 12 times since the Turner Turnpike opened over 72 years ago, continuing to maintain some of the lowest toll rates of any tolling authority in the nation. Case in point, Turner Turnpike costs $5.40 for a passenger vehicle after the latest increase. that went into effect earlier this year. If the authority had raised tolls according to inflation, that toll would be just under $17 today. I'll take any questions.
Not a question, but just an elaboration of your great comments. In addition to everything else, we also invest that money in enhancing safety, like with the wire cable barriers. And as you said, we also use that money to keep our rates as low as possible.
Exactly. And keeping those reserves really is helpful with the rating agencies. Thanks.
Good report.
Thank you, Wendy. The next report is the director's report. Director E. Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Actually, this first item, I'd like to request that you recognize Trent January, our chief engineer, to talk just a little bit about the South Extension Turnpike and the alignment announcement date.
Yes, sir. Mr. Hamilton.
Good morning, authority members. As Joe said, I'm here to talk about the South Extension announcement alignment. Since the announcement this past spring that engineering work was resuming on the project, we've also done we did two public meetings to gain input from the public down in the Norman area, the Noble Purcell area. Got a lot of good comments back, over 600 comments during those public meetings that we held. We have consistently, OTAs, communicated with the public that the alignment must move to the west and that an announcement of the new location would be made early this fall of 2025. And so here we are, and I have to come present that. And after several months of study, public input from those meetings that we had with the public, the initial design work, we plan to announce via live stream the new South Extension Turnpike alignment on 2 p.m. September 23rd. OTA is doing its best to be fair for all the people involved by live streaming this announcement on 3 platforms to ensure property owners have the information. It will be on OTA's Facebook, YouTube pages, as well as the same live stream link that we're using today for our board meetings that we share monthly. OTA's priority is to these homeowners and property owners that we're getting ready to affect, who will be impacted by this new route alignment. And to that point, we have scheduled 3 homeowner open houses in the following few days after the official announcement, including a Saturday, to make it easy for them to talk with us about their particular needs and hear any details we have available that can impact them. Those will be September 24th in Norman, September 27th also in Norman, and then September 29th in Noble. In selecting these announcements dates, we considered what the fairest way to treat the property owners and how we can balance the many competing interests of the various groups and stakeholders who all want to know first. So we're unveiling it so everybody can know at the same time. And then finally, we hope during these 3 weeks of advance notice, we can continue to push the message out proactively, and we hope everybody will tune in and watch the online version soon to be informed directly. And if property owners have any questions between now and when we do the announcement, the live stream announcement, please, you can still reach out. You're encouraged to call or email the Access hotline. It's shown up on the screen to ask us any questions. As I stated, we've continually said that we're going to continue to move it to the west. So any property owners in that area that have any questions, they're more than welcome to reach out to us, and we'll try to answer all of our questions the best we can. But again, at 2 p.m. September 23rd is when we plan to live stream and let everybody know where that alignment is going to be. And I'll be happy to answer any questions on this.
And all those other dates that you put on there, because I couldn't read them, it was kind of small, but that's all on the website, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That is all on our website. Again, it's September 24th in Norman at the Nancy O'Brien Center for the Performing Arts, September 27th in Norman at the NCED Conference Center and Hotel, and then September 29th at the Noble High School.
Great. Any questions for Mr. Hamilton? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you again, Mr. Chairman. A couple of things to go over here this afternoon, this morning as part of the director's report. First, want to show a little bit of appreciation to the consulting engineers report. You pair that with the BOK's report and Wendy's explanation of the general fund, and you get an answer about why our roads are in such good condition. We put a lot of money back into them, not just what we spend out of the reserve maintenance account, but also we move projects forward when we can afford to do so. When we have shorter years, like COVID, we sometimes are forced to push a project out of the capital plan and push it back a year. Luckily, last year was a year we got to move some forward, so always like being able to do that. Just a reminder to the board that we are still anticipating the loft report. We've provided our final responses, I think, and they're finalizing some of that. I think that over the course of the next month, weeks or month, you're going to see a final version of it. So look forward to addressing any concerns or questions that the board may have, hopefully at maybe the next board meeting in October. September is Seatbelt Safety Month, and you all know that Chairman Jones usually likes to gig me just a little bit about always trying to come back to seatbelt safety. And it's something that former director of the Turnpike Authority, Tim Gatz, always said at the end of every board meeting. Chairman Jones and I get some fun out of me seeing if I can skip it and him always bringing it right back to the forefront. This month, OTA and ODOT launched a joint seatbelt safety campaign to ask Oklahomans to recognize that wearing a seatbelt improves their chances of surviving a crash by 50%. Oklahoma ranks 44th in the nation for seatbelt usage, and I know that our state can do better. The governor has issued a proclamation that I'll read now. Whereas the state of Oklahoma is dedicated to protecting the lives of all who travel on its roads, highways, and turnpikes, and recognizes that seatbelt usage is one of the most effective ways to reduce injuries and save lives in vehicle crashes. And whereas seatbelt use should be a daily habit for all drivers and passengers, just as routine as starting the engine or checking your rearview mirror. And whereas over 51% of all fatal crashes in Oklahoma involve someone not wearing a seatbelt, a clear indicator that lives are being lost due to preventable decisions. And whereas certain groups, particularly males of driving age and older, rural residents, and young adults aged 16 to 24 are less likely to wear seatbelts. And whereas the Oklahoma Department of Transportation and the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority are leading a targeted, data-informed seatbelt awareness campaign throughout the state to educate the public on the life-saving impact of seatbelts. And whereas the campaign theme, Make It Home Safe, Make Oklahoma Safe, is supported by the powerful reminder, never skip the click. Because only having a 50% chance of surviving a crash without a seatbelt is not good enough. Now, therefore, I, Governor J. Kevin Stitt, do hereby proclaim September 2025 as Seatbelt Safety Awareness Month. I have a copy of that proclamation here that we're going to ask if you're an OTA employee that you come up here and join us inside the horseshoe. And if the board members maybe would stand and crowd to the middle, we'll get a picture of this real quick.
All right. Everybody smile, look this way. I want to take a few of these.
One more thing. Okay. All right, thank you. I don't know if we'll ever do it like that again, where we try to get everybody up there, but it worked out okay. I also appreciate Chairman Jones. I don't know if you all got to see a copy of it or if you had the time to read it, but he recently wrote an opinion column that was published in the Journal Record about how seatbelt safety can also impact businesses and our state's workforce. You'll see a lot about this seatbelt campaign on ODOT and OTA social media channels, and if you're not following us on a social media channel, you're missing out on a lot of the message. That's where we're able to quickly share information on both Facebook, or on all of these places, Facebook, X, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube. All the month of September, we've got lots of things coming out, lots of promotions about seatbelt safety. A seatbelt campaign tool kit is available for companies and organizations to use at www.drivesafelyoklahoma.org, where you'll also find all our public safety announcements. So if you want to be able to share one directly with maybe people that you work with or with your family, we'd like to share one of those PSAs with you now.
Dad, don't get bucked.
I still think that is so funny. So I really think you need to watch it twice, because the first time I said, "What did he say?" And then the second time I watched it, I realized that's the reaction, which is, "What did he just say in the back seat?" But that ad is absolutely targeting, these middle to young aged men, 18 to 40, that are not wearing their seatbelts, especially in the more rural areas of our state, where you think I'm just going to hop in the vehicle to just run across town, or you think I'm just going to hop in the vehicle, go check the mail, or to run over to the neighbor's house. Accidents can happen just about any place. Nobody leaves their house intending or prepared to get in an accident. We talked earlier today about our employees. Walked out of their door that morning, they did not plan on there being a crash on the side of the turnpike. We take a lot of safety precautions. A seatbelt is in every race car. A seatbelt and a helmet are available to anybody riding a motorcycle. You need to take your line of defense toward other vehicles. So that's the Don't Get Bucked commercial. We've got, or PSA, we've got several others that are like that. But mostly we're really trying to target, specifically with that one, the young men. Just more than, golly, I just barely talk. Just more than a year ago, I happened to be the first person on the scene of a crash on the Turner Turnpike. I didn't know if the young man that was in the wreck was going to make it. He was going to be here today, but he had something come up at work. Unfortunately, in the middle of the Turner Turnpike, I met a young man named Trey Weber. He was going to try to be here today. He again, had something come up at work, and I think that they put together a little PSA video along the never skip the click about Trey.
June 19th, 2024, a normal morning commute became a life-altering moment for Trey Weber. Running late to work, he crested a hill near Wellston, only to find traffic at a standstill. In an instant, Trey's vehicle collided with a stopped commercial vehicle. He wasn't wearing his seatbelt. What happened next would forever change the way he views life and the choices we make behind the wheel. This is Trey's testimony in his own words. Some of what you are about to hear is graphic and deeply personal.
I woke up late for work that morning, came through Wellston, and then after that, it gets really fuzzy. The next thing I do remember, I was laying in the car and I was face down. And my head was cut open real bad. And I remember just sitting there just dropping blood. And I couldn't move. I was just like locked up. I was just sitting there. I was like, man, I did it this time, I think.
It happened just a few cars ahead of me. There was still dust in the air when I came over the hill. And I pulled in behind it, kicked on my emergency lights, and called 911. Walked up to see if there was still an occupant in the vehicle. There was.
He said, were you wearing your seatbelt? Never had it on.
And I stayed there with him until the fire department arrived.
As far as injuries, my femur, tibia, fibia, my whole ankle and foot, my left foot, my left hip, my pelvis. Probably took me 2 or 3 months to be able to walk again. It's definitely just hardest on my family for sure. Them having to go through that thought of, I'm showing up to this hospital. It wasn't the worst for me, but I would say it's really bad on your family. Just to make them go through that and have to think that. It really made me start thinking about, slowing down and being more cautious and definitely wearing my seatbelt. I'm very thankful for Joe for stopping that morning, but he got in contact with my family and he was texting my parents and he went above and beyond to help me. I'm very thankful for that.
You can feel pretty invincible when you're in charge of whatever vehicle you're driving. I am telling you that they are not. It impacts not only you, it can impact you for the rest of your life. Anybody who has to support you now that you can't work or now that you can't provide for yourself just because you chose not to buckle that seatbelt. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I would stand for any questions that the board may have of me.
Does anybody have any questions? I know John would have a bunch, and he misses that he wasn't here. Great report. Thank you. Our next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, October 7th, 2025 at 10 a.m. With that, do I have a motion for an adjournment?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Cohn. Please vote.
Okay.
And voting has ended. Everybody had approved. Thank you. Meeting adjourned.